First, President Trump pivoting back to jobs. The White House is kicking off what it calls Workforce Development Week, focusing on boosting apprenticeship programs for blue-collar workers. This comes as the White House continues to grapple with fallout from former FBI Director James Comey's testimony on Capitol Hill last week. The president once again waded into the news, tweeting this yesterday, quote, "I believe the James Comey leaks will be far more prevalent than anyone thought possible. Totally illegal, question mark, very cowardly, exclamation point." But South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham warns the president's own words on the Russia probe are getting in the way of his agenda and something getting done. Watch this.
Here's what's so frustrating for Republicans like me. You may be the first president in history to go down because you can't stop inappropriately talking about an investigation that if you just were quiet would clear you. It's frustrating for me to want to help a man who I think will do big things no other Republican would do, like immigration. Believe it or not, I think Donald Trump may deliver us from a broken immigration system. This is not helping.
Joining us now is former New York Congresswoman, now a member of the board of directors for the Independent Women's Forum, Nan Hayworth. Congressman, good to see you. How does it help, though, with Senator Lindsey Graham using language like going down in terms of the presidency? None of these Republicans are helping, and I point back to just that panel last week that interrogated James Comey. They gave him a pass, quite frankly.
Well, and I think the watchword really is discipline on all sides. If we really want to get, and there is a great agenda that the president was elected legitimately to pursue, including job creation, as you were just mentioning, then he needs to, I think, apply discipline to his social media habits. He's capable of doing it. He's a very smart man who knows how to reach out to the public. And on the Republican side, we have to hang together. So we're going to have to, all of us, learn how to accept the signals among ourselves and not use language that's vulnerable to use by those on the left who want to bring the agenda down.
He's clearly appealing to the base with the tweets, but yeah. Can that be broader? I mean, it looks like even the base gets fragmented at times with some of the messages that are coming out of the tweets.
Well, yes, because they tend to be, unfortunately, a bit intemperate, maybe impulsive. The president is, no question, blunt, and in some ways that's to be preferred over certain other forms of communication. But yeah, the president, look, he's great at reaching out. Look at the groups he campaigned among when he was running for president, right? He went to urban communities. He went to, obviously, the blue wall, the blue states. He appealed to labor. These are folks he can continue to bring in a very important way because he's really got an incredible mission that he's pursuing. This jobs initiative is going to be very powerful.
And let's talk about that, Mike, because yesterday President Trump, he had one Comey tweet, I think, all day long, but he was tweeting about the economy, the performance of the stock market, the number of jobs created, particularly with this apprenticeship program. You have a record number of job openings in this country. There's 6 million positions waiting to be filled. And according to stats from the Labor Department, 9 out of 10 Americans who complete apprentice training land a job. Their average starting salary is $60,000 a year. It's an underused way to get people back into the workforce.
It's exciting to hear about this, and I think we all want to hear more about this. The thing with this is, you have this apprenticeship program. You're helping to increase American workers' productivity. This is what's going to drive growth. This is what will drive wages. This is what will drive quality of life. We want to keep hearing about this. My question for you is, who within Trump's circle can get him refocused on what's going on here? I want to hear more about this. Enough with the emails, because we keep going back to that. Enough with Comey. Enough with this. Let's focus on growth. Let's focus on making America great again. Who can help him do that?
I agree. Well, look, the president has really a group of gifted people around him. I mean, he's chosen some very smart people, not all of whom have fallen into line with everything that he said, and we know that as well. So I think, we all look to Ivanka. We look to, Mrs. Trump is going to be taking up residence in the White House, and I think she's also quite savvy.
She tweeted a photo from being in the White House.
Exactly. So I think having Melania there may also be a moderating influence.
She can take his phone from him?
Well, yeah, Good luck. She probably has more access than anyone else.
And don't you believe that the media, in part, it may be their fault in focusing the message on the tweets and on the emails and not on jobs or these growth initiatives like health care and tax reform?
Heather, there's no question about it. And, the president creates the bait and takes the bait, and he really has so much to offer and such an important agenda. He has to be aware that the media are not going to be with him. Don't give them ammunition.
Right. Well, but to that point in the press conference on Friday, he said 100% I'll sit down with, I'll talk to Robert Mueller if you ask me and talk under oath. And then he also raised the issue of the potential existence of tapes, question mark.
Right.
And so now what's everybody going to be talking about this? Jeff Sessions testifying tomorrow. We don't know if it's going to be in public or not. But again, that's why you have to avoid talking about all of this. And I fault a lot of the Republicans because there's division in the agenda.
Yes.
There's division in the Republican Party about how to raise revenue in any kind of tax reform. There's a lot of division about health care because these non-conservative Republicans don't want to give up the Medicaid funding that they got under Obamacare. They're finding every reason to oppose the bill in the Senate that came out of the House on Obamacare repeal.
I lived it in the House of Representatives when I was there. We had the Great Wave in 2010, and we thought, boy, we're going to be able to move forward swiftly. And it was very, very difficult. And a lot of it is that there are, in every congressional district and in every state, there are certain key concerns among constituencies that the electeds, no matter their party, have to try to honor. I do think one thing that the president's been calling for that I think is a very smart thing for him to pursue, and I would pursue it behind the scenes with Mitch McConnell, is to work hard on the filibuster on cloture on legislation, because really, truly, Chuck Schumer is
he's coming after the administration, not just President Trump.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how brilliant the plan the Republicans come up with and how unified they may be and how ecumenical they'll be about those concerns. Chuck Schumer's going to block it.
They're getting awfully cute, too, with Chuck Schumer inviting the president to testify in front of Congress. Come on, man.
Please.
Yeah, think about your constituents. Nan, there's a controversial, speaking of New York City, a controversial production of Shakespeare in the Park, the Shakespeare play Julius Caesar, costing the New York-based Public Theater some of its sponsorship money. Both Delta and Bank of America are pulling support after it shows basically Caesar is portrayed as Donald Trump. It's a Donald Trump lookalike being stabbed to death on the Senate floor.
Oh.
And your reaction to this controversy?
Well, the fascinating thing is that, of course, the director of the play says, well, of course, but we're pointing out that it's a very bad thing to assassinate your leader because, of course, Julius Caesar, in the play, they come to a very dreadful end for Rome. But what everybody's going to focus on, of course, is the fact that they're assassinating a figure of Donald Trump. And it's incredibly hypocritical for folks in the entertainment industry to come after Donald Trump.
So violent. It's just so violent.
Right.
And not
they would never have done that with his predecessor.
No. But again, these companies, Mitch, are saying enough is enough.
Listen, no one wants your brand.
In terms of, like, you saw what happened to Kathy Griffin, and she cried crocodile tears and then blamed the Trump family for taking her down rather than taking personal responsibility for what happened.
That's just stunning that anybody would take her seriously after something like that. And Delta and Bank of America are listening to the American public, which they should.
I want to know what the producers of this play were thinking after what happened with Kathy Griffin are going and doing this. I don't care what your political views are. You can dislike Trump. This is incitement to violence. Why would you do this?
Well,
what are you thinking?
Well, because it's New York City, and they're playing to their base.
Right.
They're playing to their left-wing liberal lunatics who happen to love Shakespeare and want to, enjoy seeing something like that.
They're testing the limit of the public service.
I like Shakespeare too. It's like Shakespeare's more clever than you are. Keep it to what it should be. Grow up.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Mitch?
No, I just think it's really difficult for brands to get associated with something that becomes so controversial. Yeah. Some may say there's no such thing as bad publicity, but that could in fact be bad publicity.
Oh, Mitch, I think you're right. Yeah. And the amazing thing, it's really sad and troubling that so many figures in the marketplace, retailers. I mean, we saw it with the Ivanka Trump lines at various
Nordstrom,
right, various stores. I just think it's really sad that things have become so politicized around the figure of the president in this way. I think Delta and Bank of America did the right thing. I just think it's a sad commentary on where we are in this political life.
And no
of the
signs of
country.
it getting better. Nan, thank you so much. Nan Hayworth, former
Always a
Congresswoman.
pleasure.